And we're a little late, but we are here for another edition of Pittsburgh Sporting News Podcast. I'm Mike Waterloo, joined by Mr. John Penline, who has Virginia gear, so I can assume that's the only reason why we are running a little bit late with malfunction. John, how are we doing today?
I'm just too busy salivating over the last two recruiting classes by the University of Virginia. That's why I had some keyboard malfunction as well.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what kind of penalties they get in a few years for recruiting violations. The fact they can still get a, four-star receiver and the top free safety in the league. I'm in the country, I mean.
Yeah, they brought in this year, they have two freshmen. One's a free safety, one's a defensive tackle. They're both the top two guys at their position. They're top 10 guys in the country. And then despite going 2-10 last year, they managed to wrap up three four-star players on defense, and they're closing in on one of the top defensive tackles. Part of the problem, though, Mike, isn't really that he's paying for these players, because he probably is, just like all of them. But he's also recruiting in the state of Virginia. That's where a lot of these guys come from. So when you have this much talent down there, that's.
I forgot Virginia's a hotbed for every sport to you, whether it be baseball, football, hockey, basketball, lacrosse, water polo. They all come from Virginia.
Nope, just baseball, football, and water polo. That's it.
The water polo capital of the world. Well, guys, John, as you know, we have a short show today. We're going to go about a half an hour. It's going to go 10 minutes longer now since you messed up and couldn't get your computer working. We really have no structure at all. John and I have not spoken about what we're talking about. I just said we're going to go on and we're going to talk. But I guess we'll still do our player of the week, and that's going to be Ryan Shazier, however you pronounce his name, the rookie from Ohio State for the Steelers, who finished with 11 tackles, 1 interception, 1 pass deflection, and the Defensive Rookie of the Year award for 2004-2015, according to Twitter last night. So he gets the player of the week for his outstanding performance against the Buffalo Bills last night. John, how much of the game did you watch?
I saw 3 plays, I think, in the third quarter.
That's more than I saw. So tell me what you thought of the Steelers' performance.
I mean, I watched the highlights this morning. I saw what Shazier did and Antonio Brown's catch and run, and I mean, it's preseason. People can get excited now. They already have one more win than they had last year during preseason. But I like Shazier. I do like his speed, and he's based on what they were showing on the highlights with all the tackles he made and the interception. I mean, he definitely has a nose for the ball, and it seems like he's going to be a really good player. So I can't take that away from him. But I mean, it's the Bills. It's preseason. Preseason and Bills are it's like double preseason. So. So we'll see how it goes, but I mean I do think they got a good one in Shazier, and I think that the offense will be good this year too if they decide to go no huddle. I mean they're not going to be top 10 in the league, but they might push around that 10th spot by the end of it.
Now a lot of people expect Le'Veon Bell to be a great player this year. We kind of spoke a little bit how we feel about him. I think he's going to be a big contributor just for the fact that they're going to be running a lot of no huddle, and you don't want LeGarrette Blount on the field while you're running no huddle. However, after the game, reporter, I guess if you want to call him a fantasy analyst, really, went up and spoke to Le'Veon Bell and asked him, who's going to get the goal line work this year, and Bell said LeGarrette Blount will. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, we a few weeks ago when we had Alex Kazor on the show, I think you were in Boston at that time, but we looked at their size and everything, and they're basically the same type of not same type of player, but same build, same height, same everything. But Blount gets this, not only does he punch people during games, but he also gets this, stereotype of being a big back, a goal line back. Do you think that's the right move for the Steelers to make?
Well, I was actually there because I remember him being there. So I was in on that conversation. I don't remember what I said at the time, but I do think that, I think that Blount was brought in for a reason. And it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me given Bell's size. Like you said, they're a similar size. But, some have said that Bell's looked a little bit smaller or a little bit thinner this year. So I don't know if he's trying to be more of like a playmaker, like trying to catch the ball more because they're going to run more no huddle. But, it's really no surprise. I mean, Blount's a solid goal line back. I mean, he's actually a pretty good guy that you need in short yardage. He's not going to fumble the ball away like Ike Redmond does. So So I mean, it's whatever. They have to get the goal line first, but I think once they do, I wouldn't be surprised if Blount got the majority of those carries.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, they brought him in for a reason. It's not like it is bringing in a John Dwyer and Ike Redmond. You're bringing in an actual quality running back who leads rushed for 1,000 yards for two different teams, for the Buccaneers and the Patriots. A decent running back. Yeah, he has an upgrade in that sort of way. And they also, I think Mike Tomlin said he wants them to get about 10 to 12 carries a game for LeGarrette Blount, somewhere around that number. And I'm wondering if they're worried about. It's weird to say worried about Le'Veon Bell's workload when he's only in his second year, but I just looked it up right now. His last year at Michigan State, he carried the ball 382 times. And you know what happens whenever people get up to around 400, their body starts breaking down, yada, yada, yada. Do you think they're just kind of protecting their long-term investment?
I mean, it's just the way that things are going now in this league. I mean, you can't have a feature back anymore. I mean, you have to have somebody else come in and kind of offset that. Adrian Peterson is like one guy that I can think of that pretty much is just the workhorse for that team. I mean, Jamal Charles is probably another, but if you want to tie it in even to fantasy football, I mean, that's why I'm never really big on taking running backs in the first round because you always have that. They always end up splitting carries. They always have a goal line back, or after 20 rushes, they bring in somebody else, or they bring somebody else in on third down. I mean, it's just the way that it is now. And I think with Blunt, they have Archer. Archer and Blunt are like the opposite ends of the spectrum. So I mean, when you've got LeGarrette Blunt and it's the fourth quarter, and you've already run for 110 yards behind Le'Veon Bell, and you're trying to grind out a win. I mean, LeGarrette Blunt can be that type of guy. I don't know if they're ever going to do that. I don't know if they're ever going to put themselves in that situation, but if they do, I mean, he's a guy. He's kind of like a fresh big back that you can bring in. So I mean, I like it. On the one end, it doesn't make a lot of sense just because, like I said, they're the same size. But at the other end, I mean, you're not going to be able to give Bell 30 carries a game. So if you have somebody like Blunt that can come in and kind of offset some of those carries, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, there's really. I was trying to find an article that I read. There's only about 7 real featured backs in the league. If you want to look at Charles, McCoy, Peterson, Forte, DeMarco Murray, depending what you feel about Alfred Morris, if you want to consider him one, and a healthy Arian Foster, and Marshawn Lynch, I guess technically too. So those are the only 8 I can think of off the top of my head going into this year. I know everybody's on the Christian Michael bandwagon this year, even though it's going to be Robert Turbin who gets the second looks. But yeah, I'm with you. I guess I hate it for a fantasy reason. I'm with you there, but from a football reason, it makes sense to keep your guys fresh, keep them healthy, and everything like that. And John, I know you did watch the Pirates game last night. How they choked away a 3-0 lead, and they end up losing 4-3 on a walk-off that's by Wilson Ramos that scored Mr. Bryce Harper, my favorite player, one that you do not like, I believe. If we're putting words or thoughts in your mouth, I apologize. But I always got the sense you did not really care for Mr. Harper. So what did you take away from the game last night besides the tweet that you said they cannot win on the road?
I mean, that's basically it. They can't. If they're at home, they probably close that game out, but because they're on the road, they don't. I mean, they look up their record on the road. It's not good. Most teams, I guess, don't have like a winning record on the road. I think the Diamondbacks do, and they're in dead last, so you can kind of use that. But I don't know. It's just more of the same with them. I mean, when they're at home, they look invincible. I mean, those first 2 games against Detroit, they looked really, really good. And we still have to keep in mind that they don't have Andrew McCutchen, and Neil Walker is doing his normal Neil Walker thing of being hurt by this time of year. And Garrett Cole's still, trying to make his way back. But, it's just frustrating because, it's one thing if you can't put together a roster that's good enough to win. It's another thing if that same roster is winning and they look like they're well on their way, and you put in a guy who's been probably the most reliable out of your bullpen all year, and he blows it. And then you bring in another guy, and he blows it. He's spiking the ball on the ground. I mean, it just speaks to a team that just is not comfortable playing on the road. and you're going to have to play on the road one way or another. I mean, this road trip's not going to end in anytime soon. So, I mean, they're going to have to play Milwaukee, later on, and they're going to have to play St. Louis. And if you want to make the playoffs, if you want to win the division possibly, you're going to need to take some of those games. And every time they lose now, it gets a little bit tougher. I mean, I've been saying all year, people have been saying, oh, well, they're out of it now, they're out of it now. Well, they're obviously not out of it, despite some of these losses that they've had, but now you're getting down to crunch time, you're getting down to the last month and a half of the season, and every game does start to ratchet up a bit. And they need to close these games out when they have the lead. They cannot afford to blow games like this because it's going to come back and bite them.
I'm having a horrible time attributing things today, but I'm thinking it was I think it was Pat Lackey. If not, I apologize. I think it was him that said when McCutcheon went out, everybody thought the Pirates had to play 500 baseball. As of yesterday, they were 5-5 before the loss, but they're 5-6 now without McCutcheon. The people are acting like their pets' heads are falling off, like it's panic time around here. That's just typical Yinzerism, I believe, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not panicking, but it's just frustrating. I mean, they should have won that game yesterday. It's right up there with, way back in like April or May when Jason Gurley gave up 2 home runs to Ryan Braun in back-to-back games. I mean,
Yep.
it's stuff like that that kind of adds up at the end of the year. I mean, some people are going to listen to that fat moron on the X saying, oh, well, they should have called up Polanco earlier, and if they don't, then, they miss the playoffs by a game or two, they'll know why. No, you're going to miss the playoffs because you didn't win the games that you needed to win, and you can say, well, if they call up this guy or if they trade for this guy, they would have won more games, but you don't know that for a fact. Whereas you know for a fact that if Tony Watson and assuming, Mark Melancon comes in the ninth, if they're able to close that game down, you will win that game. If Jason Gurley doesn't blow that game against Milwaukee or both those games against Milwaukee, you will win those games. That's the type of stuff that piles up at the end. So it to me, I mean, I'm not panicking. I would really like to see them at least salvage somewhat of this series today with a win, because they've already lost 4 in a row all of a sudden. But it's not the end of the world. I mean, people do need to calm down a little bit, and McCutcheon is on his way back soon, and so is Garrett Cole. So I still feel like this team has a good run left in them. I just don't want them to give away too many games before it's too late.
All right, and Tim Williams from Pirates Prospects posted something very interesting on Friday night, and it's something I think a lot of people have felt that he's the one who said it. Does it seem to you? Again, there's no structure show. We're just talking about whatever here. Does it seem to you that Pirates fans are more apt to complain right now than they have whenever they were losing? Like you see the complaining being more and more over the past 2 or 3 years than you have over the past 18 before then?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that. One being that they're winning and people will actually care about them now, and because they care, they think that they know about the game, and so that's the first thing. 2, the Steelers are awful right now. They might be good this year, but heading into the season, they're awful. 3, the Penguins are in the middle of their own mess. And so Pittsburgh fans are trying to turn to a team that is on the upswing, and I think we can all agree that the Pirates probably have the best potential. Maybe not to win a championship because just based on basic odds, it's a little bit easier in other sports. But I mean, it's either that or the Pittsburgh Power, and you and I both know that only Dom Arico cares about the Pittsburgh Power, bless his soul. But so yeah, I mean, but yeah, people are always complaining about the Pirates. I mean, and they give the Steelers a free pass, and they blindly follow the Penguins, but the Pirates, yeah, they just find ways to complain. I remember Tim Williams tweeted out a couple days ago about how people complain because they don't like the way the Pirates are winning games. That's really what it comes down to. I mean,
Yep.
they assume that doing this or that automatically is going to work or not work, and the fact of the matter is that they don't know. They don't know. I trust what Neil Huntington's doing because Neil Huntington is one of the the main reasons why this team is competitive at all. And he started with nothing, and he's been able to build up this organization. And I just think that a lot of people like to overreact after losses. It's kind of a football thing because there's only 16 games in a football schedule, and they think that every win and loss is important. So yeah, I mean, I don't get it. People love to complain about the Pirates, and to me, they're the best team going right now in Pittsburgh.
Well, what's your take about Neil Huntington not doing much to upgrade the team at all? We're not talking about the big stars like Samardzija, Lester, Price. We're talking about having guys like Jason Nix, Michael Martinez, Stoli Pimentel. You have basically a four-man bullpen, and you have guys who really aren't that good. I don't know if there's better options in the minors. Maybe Andrew Lambeau, who knows? But what's your take on that? And people are like, why hasn't Huntington done anything? You even see guys like, I hate to say this, but these are actual complaints I've seen. Please don't think it's me. People saying Darwin Barney, that could have been a guy the Pirates could have used when the Dodgers picked him up. Darwin Barney is a guy the Pirates, they could have used his defense. Or you see a guy like Jim Johnson. I saw somebody complain because the Tigers signed Jim Johnson, picked up his contract, and the Pirates didn't go after him. So what's kind of your opinion on the fact that Neil Huntington and the upper management really hasn't done anything to improve this team at the deadline, after, while the waiver's still going through, or anything like that?
Well, people complaining that Darwin Barney would have been an upgrade because of his defense need to look at the defense that Michael Martinez and Jason Nix have played. I mean, if that's what it's coming down to, I mean, if people want to talk about, oh, well, Darwin Barney, he at least would have been a good glove. Well, they have good gloves that can't start because they can't hit. I mean, that's not really the issue. In fact, the only real issue has been the pitching. I mean, and the starters have been pretty solid other than Charlie the other night, but, like you said, the four-man bullpen, I mean, the bullpen is pretty much a mess. And I would have liked to see them get Bastardo, but we don't know what they were asking for. I mean, people say, they really want to get desperate around these times. I mean, Tyler Glasnow for Antonio Bastardo. Yeah, sure, okay, we'll just throw that in there. I mean, I understand
how about guys like, again, these are things I've seen, Roberto Hernandez or Kevin Correa, a.k.a. Fausto Carmona for Roberto Hernandez?
Yeah, I mean, how much of an upgrade is that really? I mean, the Dodgers took a chance.
He's been good.
Okay, but I mean, I guess my whole thing is that, I think that part of it is that they looked at their rotation and they saw that they had some guys out. They saw that Frankie was coming back, and Frankie's been good. You can't even deny that.
Very good, very good.
Garrett Cole's been solid in AAA. I really, I would like to see him in the majors before they try to make that AAA playoffs push for Indianapolis. I don't know how many starts he's going to have down there. It's driving me nuts. But, and I think if you get Garrett Cole back next week and you get Andrew McCutchen back the following week, you're acquiring two pretty good players that you have been able to survive without. So I think part of it was they weren't really quite sure what they were doing heading in because, if you've got some injuries, it's really tough to make those decisions and try to, sell the farm basically just to bring in like one or two guys. And I'm not saying that that's what the Dodgers did, because they didn't when they brought in, Ramon, Hernandez, Carmona. But, at the same time, I think that, I don't know, I would have liked to see them upgrade the bullpen, but even if they didn't, it's not the end of the world. I mean, the guys that they have, Tony Watson needs to pitch better. Justin Wilson needs to pitch better. I mean, those guys aren't going anywhere, and those guys factor into the future of the team as well. So, to me, we have to. I mean, the guys that are already here, they're going to need to play better. Period. I mean, that's just the way it is.
How about your favorite guy, Vin Mazzaro?
You know what? I would take a shot on Vin Mazzaro right now. I actually would. That's how bad it is. I mean, Jemar Gomez has actually been better. I mean, Jared Hughes has been pretty solid as well. It's just, I think Wilson is probably the weak link out of that whole group. Now that Pimentel has a made-up injury. And, I mean, we have to see more of John Axford first, but Tony Watson, I mean, how many times? I mean, everybody has a lot of confidence in Tony Watson, but I think people need to realize that he's not unhittable. And they
Right.
didn't realize that. They realized it now because Adam LaRoche made sure of it. And we need to stop acting like every reliever that we bring in is going to be, automatically just untouchable. I mean, I've got the MLB TV thing. I think you do too. And
Yeah.
you watch the other games. I mean, how good is the Dodgers bullpen? I mean, how good is Atlanta playing right now? I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, the Cardinals. I mean, how they do last night? They gave a grand slam to friggin' Jed Jerko.
The
I
Padres.
mean,
Yeah.
it's every team is dealing with it right now, and the National League as a whole. I think the National League has like the best All-Star team, even though they didn't win the All-Star game. I think they have the best collection of talent, but the teams really aren't that good. Every team
Right.
has major weaknesses.
No, I agree with that. I mean, you mentioned John Axford. I just shake my head because he's so bad. But I mean, he's a fun guy, I guess. But do you remember how excited everybody was whenever they got Ernesto Frieri for Jason Gurley? Do you remember the initial reaction? Oh my gosh, the Pirates won this trade. It was a sweep. They easily won this trade. No, Frieri sucked. He sucked for a reason. And you're always going to have those two fans. You're going to have the ones that will criticize every single move Neil Huntington makes, and you're going to have those that praise every single move that the Pirates make. You don't have really anybody in the middle like, okay, we'll wait and see what this is like. Is he like, oh my God, great grab, amazing, amazing, amazing. But I still want to see them go after Joaquin Benoit from the Padres. I still think that'd be a great arm to upgrade. I think you could get him relatively cheap, give a couple, C prospects, B prospects, something like that. Get him. I'm more than okay doing that.
I don't know why the Padres held on to those guys. I really don't. I don't know why they think that they can build around Ian Kennedy and Joaquin Benoit.
Me
That
either.
team sucks so bad, and like they need players, they need prospects, and like I just don't get why they didn't make any moves other than give up Chase Headley for nothing and Houston Street for nothing. I
Young
mean,
Harvest Solarte. That's who they got for Chase Headley, Mr. Solarte.
yeah.
Fantasy baseball stud. Beside before his oblique strain. But we only have about 10 minutes left. Let's answer some mailbag questions we got on Facebook, John. And are you ready to beat a dead horse? Because I am.
Okay.
When I ask for suggestions, the first one I get is a link to an article from our own Matt Shetler saying Josh Harrison is falling back to earth. Basically, somebody wants to be cute and say, hey, Mr. Waterloo, you still look like an idiot because Josh Harrison's still the best player in baseball chasing the batting title. Well, to you, good sir, I have to say right now, I'll eat my crow. But again, like I've said all year, talk to me in October when he's back to being a typical player, and then talk to me in spring training when he's going to be a bench player yet again. But go Josh Harrison, keep it up. He surprised me so far, and thus far I have been very, very, very wrong, as has Matt Shetler. We've talked about it, texted about it, and one of the quotes from Shetler to me said, wow, we really look stupid right now because Josh Harrison's still playing way over his head instead of being the player who that everybody thinks he is right now. So, yeah, I mean, good for Josh Harrison, good guy. He's really helping the Pirates out, keeping them afloat. And it would be a hell of a story if he came away with the NL batting title. So,
Yeah.
anything to add? I mean,
It's gonna be hilarious too if he plays like crap next year and he goes to arbitration and the Pirates undercut him, and people think, oh, it's just Nutting being cheap, but it's like, no, he's just a good utility player having a solid year. Like that's all he
yeah.
is. He's a great. I mean, he's a great guy off the bench, to be honest. I like him in that role, but
hmm
this year he's playing like a monster. I mean, you can't deny it.
Oh, absolutely. Can't deny it. And regardless of what you or anybody else thinks, I'm happy to see it happen. He's a good guy, and I just know the type of player he really is. The peripherals don't add up, and just I don't know, unless he's enjoying a hell of a breakout at this year, I don't see it happening, but hey, keep it going as long as you can. And our second mailbag thing that we got, John, was not really a question, but more of a powerful statement because it has an exclamation mark at the end of it. And it says, the Pirates need a manager. Would you like to take this one, John?
I thought they had a manager.
I thought they did too, but I guess
Doesn't Clint Hurdle manage the team?
I thought he did, but I mean, on Twitter, I guess Twitter manages it technically, so I don't know if they need one man or how that works. But the first question, by the way, came in from a man named Ryan Phelan, and this one came in from a Robert Horner. So thank you guys for your questions.
Wait, are these being sent in like now, or is this like a long time ago?
No, this was about 15 minutes ago whenever I posted it.
Oh, cool. Well, then I can't believe people are still listening. No, the thing is, my criticism of Hurdle is that he leaves the starters in too long and they get shelled and then the game is out of hand. That's the only thing that I really question him about. I mean, I like a lot of the guys that blog about the Pirates, Brian McKelney and Pat Lackey and Tim Williams. I like those guys, but I they are like so hell bent on using like one reliever every single time. I mean, it's got to be Tony Watson. Use Mark Melancon in the fourth inning with the bases loaded and the best hitter up. I mean, and to me, the bullpen usage. I understand in certain spots you need to use your best guy, but they need everybody to contribute. They need everybody to pitch well. They need everybody to pitch as best they can. They can't rely on two guys down the final stretch because they're going to be in trouble if they do that. So, and the bunting, I like the bunting. Guess what? It's called strategy. You're trying to win the game. You're trying to score runs.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you, but yeah, you're giving up an out. But if giving up that out moves two guys in the scoring position
You
and
do
you
it.
need the first run to win the game, I'm going to do it 100% of the time. It's about winning the game. It's not about you thinking, well, statistically, if we didn't bunt, we would score 13 more runs over the course of 162 games. Screw that. You're trying to win the game. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, his in-game management isn't in-game coaching isn't really that good. I guess you can say the same thing for Dan Bylsma. That was a major complaint about him. But yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, I still think Clint Hurdle's a hell of a manager, and he just gets a bad rap a lot. But John, we have about like 7 minutes left. Do you have anything you want to talk about? Anything at all?
Do we have any more questions, or is that it?
That is it. That's
So
well. We had a spam one where somebody was looking for a husband from Europe or something, but I went ahead and told her we cannot help her with that. So
you take him in the first round.
it's a keeper, so I have Calvin Johnson already saved up, so I have him at pick 12. It's a team I'm taking over. It's Matt Shetler's league, been around for 20 years, so.
Jeez. Yeah. I've done. I actually went to like Fantasy Pros. And I paid I paid the $15. Like I went like all out this year.
Yeah.
And I've been doing like a million mock drafts in like all 10 different positions, because I'm in a 10-team league. And unless I can get like one of the top 3 running backs, I have to go receiver. I can't. Every time I don't, my team blows. I hate it. Like I have to go receiver. Every single time. So.
Get to this top 6. And talking about receivers, what do you think about Marcus Wheaton this year? You think he has sleeper potential for the Steelers?
Yeah, I think he does. I mean, as long as he doesn't get injured, I mean, I think he's got good speed. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but yeah, I really like. I mean, in general, I really like the Steelers' offense this year. I think Brown and Wheaton are going to be solid. I mean, Brown's going to do his thing, but I think Wheaton's going to get involved in. I don't know. It depends on what Martavis Bryant does if he's able to get on the field at all this year. But I just
too.
What's that?
You have Lance Moore too.
Yeah. So I mean, they're going to run a lot of no huddle, and I mean the defense might be better, but they're not going to be great. They're still going to give up points, and they're probably going to there's probably going to be a lot of games where they're trying to come back, or they're going to be in a lot of barn burners. So I like the Steelers' offense this year for the most part. I think on paper they have a chance to be pretty good. So, if you've got, I mean, depending on how far down your league goes, I would definitely take a flyer on Marcus Wheaton late. I don't think a lot of people are talking about him either. Everybody's talking about Mike Evans and Sammy Watkins. I mean, Sammy Watkins has gotten so much attention, and it like blows my mind because he plays on the Bills, and the Bills are terrible, and they don't have a quarterback, and they're a running team. So I don't see how Sammy Watkins would fit in at all, especially when it's the middle of December and it's snowing 4 feet on the ground.
That's my concern.
So
yeah, I agree. No one's talking about Wheaton really. I kind of like him as taking over the Emmanuel Sanders role. And if he can do what Sanders did for the offense, who even though everybody wants to say Sanders sucked, he had a pretty good year last year. When you actually think about it and look at his numbers he posted, he had a pretty good year. If Wheaton can fill in what those 70 catches, 800 yards, or whatever it is. I think the Steelers and the Steelers fans should. We know how fans are. Should be pretty happy, but we'll see. All right. Anything you want to go with for the final word here, John?
Um, yeah, I guess my final word really has nothing to do with sports. I just, on Monday, we lost a great performer and a great comedian, Robin Williams, and that was probably like the worst celebrity death that I've ever really had to deal with because I don't know any of these people, and usually I don't really care. But
Right.
when you're our age, when you're in your 20s or about to get into your 30s, you grew up with Aladdin, you grew up with Hook and those movies, and it's tough to fathom that somebody who brought that much joy to the world could be fighting his own demons. And I'm not going to play psychiatrist here and try to figure out what went wrong, but yeah, that's pretty much it on a high note there. Just wanted to kind of just bring to light how devastating that was, but also he's been somebody I once heard after this whole thing happened. He said he's brought in enough entertainment for the next 5 lifetimes. So there's plenty to watch and kind of remember what a great performer he was.
I actually watched Aladdin yesterday. It was on TV on the Disney Channel. I watched that over the Pirate game and the Steeler game, and at the end they had a little tribute to Robin Williams saying thank you for all the laughs. So I thought that was classy. My final word is for Mr. Daniel Dudley, our good friend, our personal friend, and then a friend of Pittsburgh Sporting News from Triple Live Radio for accepting position out in Los Angeles for Radio Disney. He won't be really talking about sports anymore. Huge opportunity. The guy deserves it. Great guy, and we're already planning on trying to go to an Oregon USC game, Oregon UCLA, or have him come up for a Portland game, or me for a Lakers or Clippers game. So we shall see. Didi, looking forward to having you out on the West Coast, buddy, and I know you'll be missed back home in Pittsburgh. So, yeah, that's all we really have for this impromptu show, if you just want to give it that title at all. But John and I will be back next Sunday, hopefully. We'll be joined by who knows who, maybe Gar, maybe Shetler, maybe Geika, maybe we'll have a guest on, who really knows. But we'll see what happens, and we'll be back to talk to you then. So for John Penline, I'm Mike Waterloo. Thanks, guys.